Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. What an awful game week 8 turned out to be. But let's put the negativity behind us and focus on Game Week 9, Team Selection, and take a look at some of the best transfers that could help us get back on track with a green arrow. Let me know if your Game Week 8 was as bad as mine. First of all, let's get this video to 10 likes, and as usual guys, we'll start with our Game Week 8 roundup. I scored a whopping 27 points in Game Week 8. But in general, it was a really low scoring game week, so it didn't actually affect our rank too badly. We went from 176k to 439k, still in the top 500,000. That being said, it's still not nice to get a red arrow. I can't seem to string two green arrows together at the moment. It just seems to be small rise, small fall, small rise, small fall. Hopefully, in the upcoming weeks, we can break out of that cycle. But I can't see that happening if Arsenal can't keep any clean sheets. Once again, they conceded and actually lost to Bournemouth. Largely to do with the Saliba red card, but obviously as he's banned now, that reduces their defensive capabilities. The rest of the backline also blanked. Liverpool conceded a goal against Chelsea. Man United conceded a late first half goal against Brentford when they had 10 players on the pitch because De Ligt had to go off as he was bleeding. And Man City actually went 1-0 down to Wolves, wiping off their clean sheet. Arteta played his usual press conference games and Saka didn't actually make the squad for the Bournemouth game, meaning that I had an auto sub of Semenyo come on, who also blanked. Rodgers was one of the two returns I had the whole game week and the only player that scored. But even then, a yellow card and no bonus points meant he came away with 6. And Mbeumo blanked against Man United for the first time in 3 games. And the only other return came from Phil Foden, who didn't even start the game when City scored a late-minute winner from his corner. Haaland was the captain, as I'm sure he was for many, and he blanked for the 3rd game running. And Calvert-Lewin managed to blank despite an XG of 1.31. I'd love to know if you got lower than that. So if you did, let me know in the comments down below to make me feel a little bit better about myself. Before we move on, I'd really appreciate if you're enjoying the content so far, liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I've also created a TikTok account under the same name, FPL Pinnacle. So if you're a fan of more short form content, go and check me out over there. Anyway, let's move on to Game Week 9, and I've got a list of my top 5 picks in every position. Starting with the goalkeepers, and despite the Liverpool game, I still think Raya is the best choice in goal for the long run. If you've got him already, it's definitely a player I'd stick with, but I wouldn't necessarily pick him up this week if I didn't already have him. Another great choice would be Brentford's Flecken. He's a whole million cheaper, and he plays the likes of Ipswich, Bournemouth, Everton and Leicester in the next 5. Everton are finally starting to find some defensive form. With Branthwaite soon to return and some favourable fixtures coming up, Pickford could be a great pick between the sticks. You may think Onana is an absolutely ridiculous pick with Manchester United's form, but they actually have the most clean sheets so far this season and he's the top point scoring goalkeeper. On top of that, they also play West Ham, Leicester, Ipswich and Everton in the next 5. Sells only gets the 5th spot despite Nottingham Forest being a really good defence this season, and that's probably because I just think we might have missed the train if you're only just putting him in. In the short term, they have Leicester and West Ham next, which are great fixtures, but then they have Newcastle, Arsenal and Man City in the next 4 after that. As good as they are defensively, I can't see many clean sheets. Gabriel's my number 1 pick in defence, despite, again, like I said with Raya, having a few difficult fixtures coming up. But I would still advise having one Arsenal defender. I myself have Raya and Gabriel, which I wouldn't say is ideal at the moment. but I have a few more pressing issues in my team that I have to deal with. And in the long run, Arsenal's defence is probably going to be one of the best in the league. Guardiola comes in at number 2. He scored 2 goals in the past 3 games. And they play Southampton, Bournemouth and Brighton in their next 3. Despite being the highest scoring defender this season, Trent only makes it to 3rd place. Don't get me wrong, I still think Trent is the best defender to have in FPL and will more than likely finish on the most points at the end of the season. But Liverpool have some tough fixtures coming up, especially this week with Arsenal away, and their schedule in the Champions League is also jam-packed. I've seen a lot of people taking him out over the past couple of weeks, but for me, I just don't think that's a good move. If you're like myself and you've got him, I wouldn't be transferring him out. I personally think he's a season holder. On the other hand, if you don't have him and you want him at some point, this isn't the week I would transfer him in. And that's why he's not higher up the list. In 4th place, and probably the best budget defender in the game at the moment, is 8 Re. He's only 4.4 million, and Wolves have a turn of fixtures. They next play Brighton, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich and Leicester. That is a long string of favourable games. He's already scored twice and got 2 assists this season, despite Wolves' horrible start to the season. Just remember, they've already played Man City, Liverpool, Villa, Chelsea and Arsenal. So it's unsurprising they're only on 1 point. I can really see them getting some results in the next few games. Dalot is kind of in the same position. The reason he's below 8 Re is because he's more expensive, and Man United's fixtures aren't quite as nice as Wolves. They're still good. They've got West Ham, Leicester, Ipswich and Everton in the next 5. Mbeumo is still the top midfielder choice outside of the premiums at 7.6 million. He's the 6th highest scoring player in the whole game this season. And Brentford's easy fixture run continues to around Gameweek 14. Brennan Johnson blanked in their 4-1 win against West Ham, but that's the first time he's blanked in 3 games. And he did come out of that game with a good XG. They've still got to play Crystal Palace and Ipswich in the next 3, and I can see him returning in those games. Dwight McNeil is the 6th highest scoring midfielder in the whole game at 5.8 million, and he has to play Fulham, Southampton, West Ham, Brentford and Wolves in the next 6. If you're looking for a budget player, he's top of the tree. Garnacho is also somebody we have to look at now. He started and played 90 minutes in the past 4 Premier League games. And Man United have West Ham, Leicester, Ipswich and Everton in the next 5. Surely he's going to return in some of those games. Buonanotte is in at 5. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's the 5th best midfielder to choose from. However, I really think he deserves a shout. You have to have a mixture of budget and expensive players in your team to get FPL to work, and Buonanotte is 5 million. Getting returns in the past 3 games, 2 goals and 1 assist. Definitely a player some people should be looking at. He could be easily rotated in and out of the team each week depending on the fixture. Aston Villa have a mixture of fixtures over the next few weeks, but Ollie Watkins, outside of Haaland, is still my number 1 pick up front. He's already got 5 goals and 2 assists this season, and I can't see him stopping. Solanke's in at number 2, despite some people thinking that he may be a bit of a disappointment this season. In terms of his numbers in front of goal anyway, but I think the longer he's in this Tottenham team, the more he's going to get used to their style of play, and the goals will come. That and a pretty favourable fixture run puts him just ahead of Wood at number 3. Much like with Sells in goal, for the short term, Nottingham Forest have some good fixtures in Leicester and West Ham. But those fixtures do come to an end. But you also can't really knock his goal return at just 6.3 million. He's probably the best choice at his price range. This could quite easily flip though with the next man because of the huge fixture swing. Cunha's already netted 3 times this season in some really, really tough games. And Wolves have such a good fixture run. And last but not least is a man that we really shouldn't be looking past. Raul Jimenez. He's only 5.7 and he's returned 5 games in a row. Fulham have Everton, Brentford, Palace, Wolves and Brighton in their next 6. And I think it would be a very good shout to get him before he's no longer a differential. He's already 8.3% owned. You may have noticed that I didn't actually include any of the premiums in my top 5 lists. And that's because I want to talk about them separately. At this very moment in time in FPL, I think the meta is to go for 3 premiums. And I've listed who I think are the best options, considering multiple factors, including form, what they've already done this season, ownership, and affordability of getting 3 of them in. And that's why Salah's number 3 for me, because I think if you go him and Haaland, it's difficult to get 3 in because of their price. And I still think Haaland is a must. His ownership is 73.5%, so if you don't own him and he hauls, then you're in for a world of pain. I know he's blanked 3 games in a row, but that's not going to happen forever. And they're playing Southampton, who are comfortably the worst team in the league, next. He could quite easily go and score 4 goals. Second for me is Cole Palmer. He has much higher ownership at the moment than Mo Salah, so again, he's going to do a lot more damage to you than Mo Salah can if you don't own him, and he has a great game week. In my opinion, he's also probably got the best long-term fixtures. In the short run, he's got to play Newcastle, Man United and Arsenal, but from game week 12, Chelsea's fixtures are really good again. So from game week 12, pretty much a necessity. In the long run, there's already 2 spots locked with Haaland and Palmer. But if you want to go differential in the short term, then Son and Foden are also good options. They do, however, come with their risks. Son is just coming back from a hamstring injury, so there's no certainty that he's going to stay fit for the next upcoming fixtures. But if he does, they probably have the best short-term fixtures in Crystal Palace, Villa and Ipswich. In my opinion, he's the perfect one to go for in the short run if you don't want to own Palmer, and then in game week 12, switch from him to Palmer. This is all made a little bit easier because of Bukayo Saka's injury and Arsenal's fixtures. In the long run, my 3 that I would own, if the injuries were out of the question, would be Haaland, Palmer and Saka. But I just don't think it's safe to own Saka at the moment with the uncertainty of playing. You don't want to have a player that costs 10 million and worry about him playing or not. It just takes up too much of your budget. As I said, I still think Phil Foden is a good option and is great differential at 6.5, but he is a minute's risk. As we saw on the weekend, he didn't start in the Premier League game, and at the time of recording this, I've actually just looked at the Man City team sheet, and he's started in the Champions League. But does this mean he's now guaranteed not to start the Premier League game? Or does it mean that he's now fit and can play 90 minutes multiple games in a row? Who knows? We certainly aren't going to get anything out of Pep. I understand that may have been a bit of a ramble, but let's condense it slightly. 1, I think 3 premiums is the best way to go. 2, it's very difficult to have Haaland and Salah as 2 of the 3 because of their price. 3, Haaland, Palmer and Saka are the best 3 to have, in my opinion, taking away injury in the long run. And 4, Son is probably your best short-term pick to go with another 2 of your choosing. That's enough of possible transfer plans for now. I hope the information I've given you has helped you slightly towards your decision making. Let's get to my Gameweek 9 team selection. And I've actually gone early and done my 1 free transfer, taking out Saka and putting Palmer in. As I said, I think Palmer is one of the best outside of Haaland to have in the long run. I know I said the fixtures turn in game week 12, but I don't particularly think that Newcastle at home and Man United are very difficult fixtures at the moment. The only difficult one in the next 3 is Arsenal. Raya keeps his place in goal despite the fact that they're playing Liverpool, but that's a necessity because my second goalkeeper doesn't play. I've also decided to leave Gabriel on the bench this week, and that's because I don't really want to double up on Arsenal defence against Liverpool, especially as Saliba won't be playing now. Dalot keeps his spot for the game against West Ham, who have been pretty poor this season so far, and Trent keeps his place against Arsenal just because of his threat going forward. Lewis makes up 3 at the back for Man City's game against Southampton. And as I said, Palmer's been transferred in and will be in the team every week. Rodgers is in for Villa's game against Bournemouth, and Mbeumo is in for Brentford's game against Ipswich. Their respective teams will be the favourites in those games, so hopefully there'll be some returns. Semenyo is in the team despite Bournemouth playing Aston Villa away, which is a pretty difficult game. But the other options are to play Gabriel, and like I said, I don't want to double up on Arsenal defence, or Van den Berg, who plays for Brentford against Ipswich. That could be a good fixture, but I always want to side with the attacker, especially one as talismanic to his team as Semenyo is to Bournemouth. Foden makes the team, and this is the fixture that I really put him in for. As I said, Man City are playing Southampton at home. I've just got to cross my fingers and hope that Pep starts him. The same goes for Haaland, who I will be given the captain's armband against Southampton despite not returning in the past 3 games. I just can't see a world in which Haaland doesn't score against Southampton. I would be absolutely amazed if he blanks again. And last but not least, Dominic Calvert-Lewin makes up the starting 11 for their game against Fulham at home. Hopefully, he can convert some of those big chances he's been getting. Well guys, that's it for another week. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel for more FPL content throughout the season. Check out some of my other videos and go and take a look at my new TikTok account under the same name, FPL Pinnacle, for more short form content. Wishing you all luck for the upcoming game week, and I'll see you in the next one.